So, David, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I am an educator, viola player, and composer. So that's what I spend most of my musical life doing. I compose mainly for strings, but I do try and do a bunch of different stuff too. And I like to mainly compose in folk and, for want of a better word, movie and game styles. That's where my interest lies.
Cool. Can you tell us quickly about your relationship with Quartet?
So I've been working with Quartet for I think since when they started. So I've written a few pieces for them. They're a really cool quartet to work with because they can do so many different things. And as a composer, that gives me a lot of options to explore a lot of different ways of writing for a string quartet that you wouldn't get from just your average string quartet. As you will see with this piece, for example, it's not just the instruments themselves. There's much more going on, and you can do lots of cool stuff in that matter. The other cool thing I find working with them is they're educators as well. So we all have a common goal, and that's educating young people and old people too, I guess, on the string ensemble and actually how far you can take that. So that's something really cool and that I really love working with them on.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about the Vivid project?
So this piece I wrote for Vivid when I was part of an organization called Concert Project. So this was a composer-performer collective, and I was one of the members of this of Concert Project. And we had a series of 4 concerts in a church in Sydney as part of Vivid. And this was for one of the concerts, which featured Quartet as the main performance. So this is one of 2 pieces I wrote, and this one here is specifically the second movement. There is a first movement. Yeah, this is the second movement.
Cool. So about this piece, what's going on? There's so many things going on. Can we talk about the influences first? Can you tell me something about where it came from?
So there's a few different places this piece has come from. First of all, it's got singing in it, which might seem a bit unusual. But during the time when this piece was written, I'd been seeing a lot of singing and playing at the same time. So, for example, there is a folk cellist called Monique Claire that Quartet's cellist, Karen Cortez, follows very much. So I'd heard a lot of that and seen some other things too in that realm. I'd had a fellow composer of mine, Reese Little, write a piece for solo cello and voice back in 2016, which is really cool. So that was an inspiration there too. At the same time, many of Quartet's members had actually been experimenting with singing and playing at the same time. So I thought, awesome, this is a really cool opportunity to involve this in the piece. And the other thing too was one of my fellow composers as part of Concert Project, Liam Mulligan, was also writing his piece with some singing in it. So I thought it would be cool to take a kind of different angle on that. So that's the singing. Second of all, there's the beatboxing, which is really cool in my opinion. Because I'm working on it, but Connor is a much better beatboxer. He's really good at that, and he's toured Australia teaching that. So he's definitely a really good beatboxer. So take advantage of the musicians I have to work with. I chucked in some beatboxing to give a drum set, because in my opinion, quartets can become a bit boring sometimes without that beat. So add in the beat. So singing, beatboxing, that's not all. There's some extended string. Yeah, there's some extended string techniques that go on in this piece. So, for example, there's the chopping in the cellos. I don't believe I have any others in this piece, but that's as far as I can recall with this one. There's some pizzicato as well, but that's a bit normal, but we can get to that later. Otherwise, there's a few cool metronomic shifts, but I think we can talk about that later.
Great. Yeah, so that kind of covers like the wide variety of sounds that you're gonna find in that piece. Yep. Super cool, great fun. Want to ask about how that feels to write, because you mentioned with beatboxing and versus strings, so there's a big difference there. Writing for strings, obviously, really well, intimately, personally. What is different about the process of writing for strings for you as a string player than writing for beatboxing, not necessarily as someone who identifies as a beatboxer?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Writing for strings for me is what I do essentially. If I want to know if something works, I'll pick up my viola. Actually, this is Connor's viola, but I'll pick up the viola and try playing it and see if it works. Or I'll do that on the violin. I can experiment with bowing. I can experiment with sounds. So working and writing for strings, I have a lot of space to move. And when it comes to working with string players in that way, I can use terms that make sense or really work on getting what I want. Something like beatboxing, on the other hand, I still know the sound I'm looking for, but I may not necessarily know the language or how to write that, for example. So with my composing, I still notate it all. So notation is still an important factor of that. So something like beatboxing, I give a guide. So I'll say, this is kind of the rhythm, the feel, and the sounds I'm looking for. And then I'll go to the performer, who is much more talented in that area, and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Can you show me what you would do? And potentially, how would I notate this? I think of it in the way of like a film director. They ask the actor to do something and the actor does something, and I go, okay, that's kind of what I was looking for, but I want a bit more of this and a bit less of this. So I'll be like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. So that's how I approach other instruments. And by working closely with the musicians, I can create something exactly what they want and what I want. So whether it's strings or whether it's not strings, that's how I kind of work, which really relies on knowing your musician. So doesn't necessarily work for everyone, but in the case of working, especially with Quartet, it makes it gives me those options.
Cool. Yeah, I really like that analogy. That's a good one. I think I'm gonna steal that from you a little bit.
Yeah, it helps work. I've worked with directors before, and it's really interesting working with them, and it's a really cool, different way of working. So
yeah, it's like compromise, but building up rather than taking things away. Yeah, great. Okay, good vibe. So I feel like we've covered the process of constructing the piece in almost all the detail, but I'm wondering if there's anything about that you specifically did with this piece, or something that you've always got as part of your composition ritual that you just, okay, now I'm going to do it this method and follow this process. What does that look like for you when you're building a piece from scratch?
Well, this piece in particular, both movements use a pentatonic scale, so a scale made of 5 notes. The first one uses your basic pentatonic scale. This one uses what I thought was the minor pentatonic scale. Turns out it's not. It is the minor scale using the first, second, third, fifth, and sixth notes of the minor scale, but the minor pentatonic is just the major pentatonic starting on a different note. So I don't know what pentatonic scale I used, but it sounds cool. So that's what I use for this one, to get that really haunting sound. I don't know if that's quite the word I would use, but that's what I used for this piece. The other thing is I often write towards moods. So, and this comes back to my like game film composing. I always think in that manner, what's the scene? What's the feeling I'm trying to get across? And that shapes my decisions. So the first movement was really fun, really upbeat, really dancey. So I wanted the opposite of that. So that kind of haunting, dramatic thing. And that's where the beatboxing, the singing comes in. The other thing about this piece that is important to know is before the concert, I still needed to write more music. So this was written 2 weeks out before the concert. So quick turnaround, which for other composers out there, or people wanting to be composers, is probably not the best thing to do, but that's what I did for this one. So it needed to be able to be learned quickly, but still sound good. And even if I'm not writing it at the last minute, that's still a guiding principle of mine. It should sound good, but not necessarily be hard. A piece isn't good because it's hard. A piece can be easy and awesome still. So it needed to be quite approachable, especially considering for most of the quartet, this is the first time they had sung and played at the same time in public. So I can't be giving them crazy vocal lines with crazy instrumental lines at the same time. So it sounds really cool, and I wouldn't change it, but it's quite simple to actually sing and play these lines at the same time. And that's quite specific. That's done very much on purpose for this piece.
Cool. Obviously, not always, but often compositions change as they go. You've mentioned the beatboxing part of it, how that was kind of a collaborative process to work out the nitty-gritty of that. But was there anything else that changed from the final product that you didn't anticipate, or that you were like, oh, this is an interesting new direction? Or
and the piece is still probably going to change. The end has changed a little, the second half, I should say. I was really unsure how to finish it. I did want to link it back to the first movement, sorry. But the end is fine. The first half is fine. The bridge, I kept changing, and I'm still not happy with it. So that's been something that's constantly developed over time. And when I'm developing these ideas, sure, you as the composer are the person writing it, but your musicians are also trained musicians. They know what sounds good. They know what sounds... For me, it's working with the musicians. So I would take the bridge to Quartet, and they'd be like, no, that doesn't work. And I'd be like, yeah, I thought so. So let's change this a bit. Does this work better? Yeah, it works a bit better, but still not quite getting the mood we're looking for. Hey, how about this? No, some people might say it works, some people might say it doesn't, so I'll go back to the drawing board and that kind of thing. For most of the rest, it played itself. So I didn't really need to revisit that. So in terms of revisiting, it's not necessarily like when you revisit a piece, you revisit the whole thing. You revisit the parts that need revisiting. You go, okay, that part actually I didn't really like. Sometimes you need a part there and nothing works, which means you do need to go back and kind of make work. And sometimes you do just end up rewriting the whole piece because that's just what you have to do. It's just not in the right place where it needs to be. But for each piece, it's different, and there's no like hard and fast rule. Like you need to revisit it X times, and you need to change this many things. Like each piece is a different beast.
Yeah,
So.
it's very much feels like it's very much like practicing, and you kind of there's no exact rules you can follow to make it work perfectly. There's just intelligently listening and workshopping back and forth and getting it.
Yeah, workshopping is a huge thing. It's something that most composers don't get to do enough. So personally, I'm really lucky to have the relationship with Quartet. And it's good for both of us because they get pieces, I get to workshop stuff. And I compose strings not only because I'm a string player, so I can write better string music, but my music's always getting better in that realm because I can constantly workshop it. I can't do that with like brass bands or a wind quintet, just because I don't have those relationships at the moment. So the more you build that relationship, the better you get at that side of things.
Yeah. That's most of the things. I had two more questions. What were your thoughts when you were listening live in the first performance live in front of the huge audience at Vivid? What was going through your head?
Yeah. A normal string quartet would be like, cool, it's nice to hear that live. This piece and pieces like this are just really cool because computers can't capture the unique voices. They can't do the beatboxing. They can't do all that stuff. So when it just comes together and works, and it gets that mood and it's played really well, it's really exciting. And it's just really cool to see something that you've made and made in conjunction with these very talented people come together up on stage and have the audience enjoy it. I was getting people come up to me at the end and being like, that was really cool. It was one of my favorite pieces of the night. So yeah, it was a really cool experience.
Yeah, take that, Stanhope. No, but for real, yeah, it was very cool to experience as well on our side. It's a great piece to play. Any final thoughts? Anything I've forgotten to ask? Anything you want to say about it as we wrap up?
For those who are interested, fellow composers out there, maybe the way I structured it might be of interest because it follows, shall we say, a very cliche structure. So if you listen to most game and movie pieces, like I do, I listen to a lot. They all sound the same to me now. It's a bit annoying, but I use the same kind of thing. So you start with not many instruments, a very thin texture, and it builds. And it plays the same melody over and over and over again. And over again and over again. It just keeps doing that. With small variations, and every now and then it'll put in a B idea. And you actually notice this if you look in Romantic Russian pieces too. They do a very similar thing. So that's the kind of structure I went with. I didn't realize it until I was actually going through the score the other day. And every time I have the melody play once, melody play second, little bridge section. Melody play once, melody play second, little bridge section. It keeps expanding and different things keep happening. But it follows that structure. And that is a structure that works. So go and use that structure, make a cool melody, and just work with it. And it gives you a safe structure to work within, a bit like how when you're working in sonata form, you can be like, I know I'm going to be in key 1 here, key 5 here, key 1 here. You know where you're heading for, and you can keep building up the song, and you get a good song or a good piece without too much effort, and it lets you work on the smaller artistry, which you can constantly improve on to make better and better songs and pieces.
Yeah, so that's the thing that's really interesting, and that's where the composer takes off from the performer, is they're thinking about the macro structure of the whole piece and how does it all fit together, and how does every element of it combine, and having a structure like that would be super helpful.
Always listen to your performers, because they can hear when something doesn't sound good. So they will tell you. As long as if you're honest with your performers and they're honest with you, it's a great working relationship. And there will certainly be times, I know there've been times with Quartet where they've gone like, I don't like this, and I'm like, well, that's how I want it to be, so kind of suck it up a bit. But at the same time, they're musicians too, and they, just like you, have ears and they have brains, and they can think about music, and oftentimes they can think about it in some ways better than you can, because they have to play it. They will know what actually the physical action is to play it. I can, on a piano, write some crazy run, but a pianist might say to me, actually, this makes no sense, it's going to sound muddy. Why don't you take out these few notes and you'll get the same effect and it'll work. Like, a performer and a composer come at it from different angles, but you both want the same thing, an awesome performance. So that would be my other suggestion too, is think of a structure, find a structure that works for you, keep working on that to build your microstructures and your artistry in that sense. And then you can go from there. You can write longer pieces. You can work on different structures. I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily an amazing composer, but I've certainly improved by doing that and workshopping. And I think in the same way, Quartet's improved by playing some of my music. We've each given each other challenges, and we've each had to learn and adapt and develop. And we've both Quartet and myself have grown a lot through the experience. So that's what I recommend to any budding composers out there, especially if you're doing your HSC. Talk to your musicians. See if you can find them nice and early. If you know who in your school plays what instruments, what they can do, what they can't do too, you can write to that, and then you get an awesome performance, and then you get those high marks.
That is really good advice, and it's a great working relationship, and I look forward to many more of your pieces in my future. And our future as well. So thank you very much for joining me, David.
No worries.
It's been great talking to you.
Same.